All systems go. Clear for liftoff.
What is going on, SHIPIT Nation YouTube station? We are back with the Monday edition of the NBA show. It's your boy Ham. I got Hebrewcheetah with me on this fine Monday, the 25th of November. Should be a great slate tonight. We got 7 games on DraftKings. We're going to break it all down for you tonight. A lot of injury news to cover off on. A lot of guys coming back into the lineups tonight, especially for those Pelicans. But BJ, Hebrew, I'll bring you in right away, my man. What's going on? How was your weekend? Happy Monday.
Yeah, happy Monday to you too. Weekend was good. Had a lot of winners yesterday in Showdown, so shout out to everybody that was a part of the chop last night. Nice little 13K profit for them. So shout out to everybody that got winners over there. Had a pretty big week this week in NBA. Our guy Ant had a really good week this past week. A lot of members had really, really strong weeks in the NBA streets. Weekend was really good as well. So looking forward to keep that going. Got a pretty jam-packed week this week with it being the Thanksgiving slate on Thursday. No NBA that day, but gonna have a ton of basketball Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. I think almost every team is playing. Got the in-season tournament stuff on that day, so we'll have all the content covered there. But yeah, looking forward to talking this slate with you tonight. A little kind of gross, a lot of injury stuff, and not the greatest game environments, but always money to be made. Price pool's a little down today, sharing the Monday with NFL. And big price pools over there actually. Got the $20, 150 max, 500K to first tonight. So hopefully we can have a repeat performance last night, and I can get in the winner's circle this time.
Yeah, should be an exciting slate tonight, and we got that NFL slate, and we got it all covered. We got a huge Thanksgiving slate for football. Then we got basketball, as you alluded to, on Wednesday and Friday. And if you aren't a member over here at the Nation, enter the promo code NBA50. That will get you your first 50% off, or 50% off of your first month. And if you sign up today, that will take you through all the way through Christmas. We got a lot of things brewing, especially with the NBA on Christmas Day. That'll give you full access to that. Let's say what's up to some people in chat like we always do. We got a guy, Ross, in here. Wins the light. Our boy Newens is in here. William, as always. Parabay, Anthony, Massey, who was balling this weekend. Chris, what's going on, Chris? Wardo, big-time Knicks guy. Evan Gossett in here. Our man BJ in the chat. Sean Sullivan. I wonder how much money Sean has left. He had 50 stacks last Wednesday night. Hopefully he saved a bunch of that. JB Knox, what's going on, my man? Hey, if you are just joining us, hit that like. Hit that subscribe button. We're at about 75 viewers right now. We'll get up to about 375 before it's all said and done. That's our only ask. We appreciate it a ton. Helps us out a lot. Let's try to get to 100. I think that's kind of the bar that I set it out. Real simple. You hit that like, you hit that little thumbs up button, and boom, there you go. Our drive to 10,000 subscribers is well on its way. As well as you guys can see, I'm sharing the stone. It's our proprietary information that Hebrew, BJ, myself, Title, all of us use over here, not only in NBA, every sport that we offer. So let's jump right into it. Hebrewcheetah. We got the Magic taking on the Hornets. No Grant Williams. Saw he tore his ACL, former Tennessee great, out for the season. We got the Magic -5. Paolo Banchero still on the shelf. Franz Wagner coming off, I think it was, 2 or 3 games ago where he lit up the Lakers for about 30 and 10. But talk to me about this game. Magic at the Hornets, -5. Pretty low total, 213.
Yeah, those Franz and Jalen Suggs lineup were the guys that chased me down that night, where apparently I was winning 100K. Everybody was tagging me in Discord, prematurely celebrating, but it's all good. We'll get it again tonight. Yeah, definitely not a great game environment, but a good amount of injury news does kind of have you intrigued a little bit for some fantasy purposes. Like you mentioned, Grant Williams going to be on the shelf for the season with the torn ACL. Is still going to be without Miles Bridges. The Hornets are, as well as both starting centers, but Nick Richards and Mark Williams looking to make a return pretty soon. I believe they're both back in practice this week, so one of them should be making a return to the lineup in a couple weeks or so. And then the Magic could be without Jalen Suggs tonight. He's questionable with the hamstring injury. Kind of weird reporting because I think that he got ruled out very quickly in that last game, played 9 minutes against the Pistons, and then got ruled out with the hamstring injury. Then they said he was off the injury report, and now he's back on it with a questionable tag. Yeah, hamstring is definitely something that takes a while to recover from, so I wouldn't be surprised to see him miss, which would add a lot more value to the slate that's already going to probably have a ton with all the Dallas news. But we will proceed with as if he's going to play, because I think if he misses, you're going to say Anthony Black he'll be starting at 4.4K. Should be a pretty solid option. And then that would kind of make, Cole Anthony a little bit more intriguing, maybe a pivot off of Spencer Dinwiddie and Jaden Hardy if Kyrie does get ruled out. But for now, if Suggs were to play, the only one I really have interest in is Franz Wagner. Like you said, he's been on a completely hot streak right now, just absolutely dominating usage and touch time and everything with Paulo out right now. And it's a pretty solid matchup with Grant Williams done for the season. That's pretty much their last line of defense in terms of guys that are actually good defenders outside of Diabate, who's been a really solid rim protector, but I'll touch on him in a second. Hornets are already allowing the third most fantasy points per game to power forwards this season, and Franz just been on an absolute tear. So I think that even 9.6K, maybe some people are a little reluctant to click that tag because we're not really used to seeing him that high, but he's definitely earned it. I mean, multiple 50-point games, a 70-pointer against the Lakers, had 60 against Philly. Both really poor defenses. I think that Charlotte is pretty bad defensively as well. They're towards the bottom of the league in defensive ratings. I think that Franz could be definitely viable tonight in tournaments and even in single entry play. And then if all the guys are in, like if Suggs and Carter are in, I just don't think I have too much interest in the secondary guys. If Suggs is out, I like Anthony Black. If Carter is out, you can go to Goga and Mo Wagner. Although the center position does have some pretty solid value tonight, so I probably wouldn't go overboard on either one of those guys. On the Charlotte side of things, we're going to see LaMelo and Brandon Miller just soak up all the usage. They took like over half the shots last game for the game against the Bucks. I think they attempted over 60 together as a duo. LaMelo himself had 38, put up 75 DK points that game with a 50 burger. Yeah, I mean, even if Suggs were to be in, this is still a pretty fine matchup. The one area the Magic do struggle with is their isolation defense and their pick and roll defense. LaMelo is first in the league in pick and roll scoring at 11.4 points per game. Just going to have an insane usage rate, insane touch time. The assist numbers are all really good this season, even with Bridges and Grant Williams in. But now you take those guys out of the equation, it's just going to be a really, really tough spot to overlook for LaMelo. So I think that he makes a ton of sense at 10K. Still has a ton of upside in this matchup that looks tough on paper. Brandon Miller, I'm a little bit less excited about just because the price tag's starting to come up a little bit, 7.5K. He's done very good, 50-plus DK point games in his last two games, had 63 against Detroit. But the Magic do a very good job taking away three-pointers. That's kind of where he gets a bulk of his scoring upside. So I'm going to be taking an underweight stance on Brandon Miller. Much prefer LaMelo Ball for his upside in the matchup. And then Moussa Diabate, he's probably gonna have a really long leash tonight with no Grant Williams because they're just very thin in the front court. You're not gonna look to Taj Gibson for 16 to 20 minutes. So I wouldn't be surprised if Diabate's minutes get up into the mid 30s tonight. And he's been really good as a point per minute producer, 1.7 fantasy points per minute this season. That definitely will come down as we get a little bit more of a sample size. But I mean, he's been just a beast rebounding the ball, has a 20% rebounding rate, has easily the best defensive rating on the team, 101.9 defensive rating. And as long as he can stay out of foul trouble, I think that we got a pretty good shot at 32 plus minutes for Diabate. So I like him a good bit. And then the last two guys I'll mention on the Hornets side, Cody Martin and Salon should see a bulk of those minutes vacated by Grant Williams. Salon is only 3.3K. Very low usage guy, so I'd be okay fading that chalk because I just don't think that we're going to get like a 30-pointer out of him. I do like Cody Martin a lot more just because he provides a little bit more peripherals. Had 6 and 4 last game, 4 stocks against Milwaukee, and we may see like 35 minutes out of Cody Martin. So that's where I'm looking to go to in this game. Not the best game environment, but I do like the spend ups, and then I like some of the values in this one.
Yeah, it's odd to me that the Hornets that are projecting have a ton of ownership, right? I mean, LaMelo did shoot it 38 times. What intrigues me is that he still had 10 assists. So obviously the ball's in his hand a lot. Any concerns with the Diabate against the Magic with the Magic being so good on the defensive glass? JB Knox wants to know.
No, not really. I mean, you could kind of argue that the matchup versus Milwaukee was worse, and he still put up 11 rebounds in that game. The only issue is that I just don't know he's probably not scoring at all. I mean, he has 3 points in his last 4 games. He only played a couple minutes in 2 of those games, but still, even the games that he's playing 30 minutes, he's topped out at 12 points. So you're probably not getting a double-double out of him unless we get 35 minutes out of him. So, yeah, I still like him as a value even in a tough matchup, but I'm not expecting a ton.
Any of this Hornets chalk, bad chalk that you won't be playing?
I think Salon is pretty bad. Just a really, really low usage guy, really low fantasy point per minute guy as well. I mean, yeah, I don't see him putting up a huge game. He had a big game against Brooklyn in only 15 minutes, but I don't know. I'm kind of okay getting away from that, even if he's starting. Just they kind of have a little bit more depth at that the small forwards, power forward positions. They can get Josh Green and Cody Martin mixed in there. Yes, I would say Salon is probably the guy I'm okay fading.
Awesome breakdown there, Hebrew. Next game up should be a pretty good one. Pistons 5-point. Look, this is showing a 5-point favorite over the Raptors. Got the news earlier. We don't have him listed in the stone, but Cade Cunningham is doubtful in this one. Obviously, that's big news. I remember last Monday night you were all over the RJ Barrett call. I mean, this guy has just been playing out of his mind. They got Scotty Barnes back. They got Jakob back, or not back, but they got Jakob playing pretty good. Talk to me about this game, Raptors at Detroit.
Yeah, Detroit been very good defensively all season long. Hasn't really showed up in the win column, but they've been competitive in some games. And then with Cade out, you're going to see a lot of usage kind of condense around a certain number of guys that I'll get to as we get deeper into the game. But Raptors defense, they're kind of improving a little bit too right now, adding Scotty Barnes back into the mix. They're still bottom 7 in defensive rating, and then the Pistons are 13th overall. Raptors' rim defense has been really bad this season, which is kind of expected when you have Jakob Poeltl down low. Their isolation defense is terrible, 3rd worst, and then they're slightly below average in transition and pick and roll defense. So it should be a pretty good spot for some of these Pistons. The one area of weakness for the Pistons mainly is their 3-point defense, slightly more of a 3-point funnel as they're towards the top of the league in rim defense and towards the bottom in 3-point defense. They're also very bad in pick and roll, bottom 3 pick and roll defense this season. So that gets me to Scotty Barnes because he's essentially going to be running the point for this team. They will have Davion Mitchell out there sharing the load with him in terms of touch time, but he's returned from that multi-game absence, kind of picked up right where he left off, 24% usage rate, 35% assist percentage, leading his team in touch time over the past 2 games. Looks like the minutes restriction is completely gone too, got to 34 minutes last game. I think this is just way too cheap of a tag for a guy with as much upside. He's got triple-double upside truly, and I think 8.5K is a very good tag for him. A little bit off on RJ Barrett now. Just seemed like the usage has still held up playing alongside Scotty Barnes, but this is a very expensive price tag to pay for him while sharing the court with him with Scotty Barnes. So I'm going to be off RJ Barrett tonight as much as I have been improved with how well he's done this season. We just don't really have a large enough sample over the last 2 years with Barrett and Scotty Barnes sharing the court together. And we know that Scotty Barnes is kind of the future of the Raptors, so I think they're going to want the ball in his hands more than RJ Barrett. Jakob Poeltl, he's a little bit too expensive for me. He did crush this matchup last time, had his best fantasy outing with 61 DK points against Jalen Duren, but just a little bit too expensive for me at 8K. I think there's better options at the center position for much cheaper. And, yeah, I don't think that I'm really going to look to get to any of these secondary guys. Maybe Agbaji is a little sneaky at 5K. Should get a ton of open 3-point looks, but not somebody I'm going out of my way to play. Really just Scotty Barnes for me on the Toronto side. And on the Pistons side, I really like the spot for Jaden Ivey. I flashed a little bit of ceiling last game against Orlando, which is a tough matchup. I didn't like that he only had 2 assists in that game. I was expecting him to be a little bit more involved as the ball handler, but he has a huge usage increase with Cade off the court this season, which is definitely it's kind of obvious because they like to stagger Ivy and Cade away. They like to get the ball in Ivy's hands a lot in the second unit, but he has a near 7% usage rate increase and 7.5 plus DK point increase, 32% assist rate, 10% rebounding rate, which are both really good numbers for a guard, averaging just under 1.3 points per minute with Cade off the court. And it's a pretty strong matchup against Toronto, who's very weak defensively. So I like the spot for Jaden Ivey here at 6.8K. I think there's plenty of upside. Going to be very chalky, but I'm kind of okay eating that chalk. Matchup on paper is very good for Jalen Duren. The minutes are not really there, so I have a tough time getting there. But there's definitely some upsides. So I think if you're playing 150 lineups tonight, you don't want to X him out because we have seen him flash ceiling at times, been in the 30-minute range a couple times this season, but mainly going to be in like the 24, 25-minute range as they kind of split those center minutes down the middle with Isaiah Stewart behind him. And then Tobias Harris, he sees the second biggest usage bump with Cade off the court this season, 3.4% increase, 6.6% DK point increase, averaging just around 1.1 fantasy points per minute. Normally, I'm fine fading Tobias Harris because he doesn't really do much, but on this slate where there's not a ton of great options in the mid-tier, I think that he makes a lot of sense at 6.2K, so I'll get to a good bit of Tobias Harris tonight. Malik Beasley saw a little bit more ball handling last game, but he's been a below average point per minute producer with Cade off the court this season. They do need some secondary ball handling when Ivy is off the court, and it looks like Beasley is the preferred option there. So he's okay at 5.4K, but not somebody I'm going on my way to play. I don't really love the upside for him in the spot. And then Tim Hardaway Jr., he's just terrible, and getting a little bit of ownership, that's a guy I'm totally fine fading.
Yeah, excellent breakdown there. With no Grady Dick missing tonight for the Raptors, who gets the biggest usage or the biggest usage bump over there? Would it be Ogbaji or would it be somebody else?
It's not really like a huge usage rate that we're looking to spread around, but Ogbaji will remain in the starting lineup, which is I think is the biggest kind of positive for him. But it's not really like he doesn't do too much where you're like going out of your way to find plays in this game. I think it's just kind of clearly Scotty Barnes on the Toronto side. They have a pretty deep bench. They're gonna get all these secondary guys mixed in, but yeah, it's mainly Agbaji and Barnes.
Is Jaden Ivey the best play on the slate at shooting guard?
Not if Kyrie is out.
Not if Kyrie's out.
Yeah.
We got some Tim Hardaway Jr. love in the chat. William wants to know about my boy Beef Stew.
I don't think you need to go there on the slate, but yeah, I don't think so. I'm probably good getting away from that.
Yeah, him and the minutes for him and Duren just aren't there in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah. Moving on to the next game, it's going to be an interesting one to talk about. You got the Pelicans, you have the Pacers. I'll let you dive into the injury news, who's coming back, who's out, because it's a laundry list for both sides. But several key members of the Pelicans out and or are coming back, and then we have a few Pacers as well. But talk to me about this one. We have the Pelicans at Indiana.
Yeah, Pelicans getting healthier, getting CJ McCollum mixed back in tonight. Definitely going to be on some sort of minutes restriction because he's been out for a while with that groin injury. And you're not really looking to play him because he's 8K almost. But, yeah, good for the Pelicans' outlook. They've just been terrible this season. They will be getting DeJounte Murray back on Wednesday as well. They announced that, so that'd be good for them. They did get Trey Murphy back a couple of games ago. He looks like he's fully healthy. Brandon Ingram is a little bit banged up, so have to keep an eye on that injury designation because there's a chance he misses. He's dealing with a couple of bumps and bruises is what the coach said about him, so got to keep an eye on that. Zion's still going to be out for a while. And then I haven't seen any update on Herb Jones or anything, but yeah, team is definitely getting a little bit healthier now, so maybe they can kind of bounce back a little bit for the rest of the season. And then the Pelicans still missing some guys, and Miles Turner is questionable with I believe it's a calf injury. I got to double check. Give me 1 second. Yeah, right calf soreness. So you got to keep an eye on that because this is a team that's very thin in the front court. Obviously, going to be without Isaiah Jackson and James Wiseman for the season. So behind him, it's really just Moses Brown, Enrique Freeman, and if Miles Turner were to miss, Moses Brown will be a very strong play. Miles Turner got into some foul trouble last game, and Moses Brown played 12 minutes against Washington, put up 22 fantasy points. So yeah, he would definitely be a very strong value play if Miles Turner were to miss. But we'll discuss this game as if Miles Turner is in. I think that you do have some interest in some of these Indiana guys just with how bad the Pelicans have been this season. They are second worst team defensive rating, second worst in rim defense, allowing the third most transition points. Pacers are a team that likes to get out and run in transition. The Pacers on the other side, they've been slipping a little bit defensively. Their offense has not really been that great either. Okay, Kyrie Irving is president shoot-around, so keep an eye on that. But the Pacers are still a huge rim funnel, bottom 5 in rim defense, and then top 6 in three-pointers allowed per game this season, which is very much in line with what they were last year. They do have a slight edge offensively in the transition scoring because the Pacers are first in offensive transition scoring from a points per possession perspective, going up against the third worst transition defense. I'll start with the Pelicans really quick. So I think it's pretty much a Brandon Ingram and move along for me if Ingram is in. Should be able to get a lot of easy looks. Brandon Ingram should. The Pelicans or the Pacers defense allowing the 6th most fantasy points per game to opposing small forwards. Brandon Ingram very good in isolation, and Pacers they don't really send help defense when guys are playing defense one-on-one. So it could be a game where we see a pretty big scoring output from Brandon Ingram, but definitely have to keep an eye on the injury designation because if you were to miss, I mean, they do have bodies, so it's not like a spot you want to go overboard with, but Trey Murphy would look a lot better. Brandon Boston Jr. probably would remain in the starting lineup and look pretty good. CJ's still too expensive, but yeah, if Ingram is in, he's the only one I'm really interested in on the Pelican side. On the Pacers side, I just can't do it with Tyrese Halliburton. He's playing a little bit better right now. Had a decent game against Washington, 21, 4, and 9 stat line for just over 40 DK points. I do prefer the upside and the matchup of his teammates like Siakam, Turner, and Mathurin a little bit. Probably going to keep Halliburton in my player pool because I still think that he's got upside when things are going right for him. We've seen random 65-pointer against New York. I don't know. I mean, it's very alarming because all the usage and the touch time, potential assists, everything looks really good and pretty much in line with where he was last year. But something's off, so I'm probably just going to be fading Halliburton until we get him into the 7Ks. I like the spot a lot for Pascal Siakam, though, versus weak rim defense. Pelicans one of the worst rim defense in the league. Siakam should have really no issues with whoever they throw in front of him. 5 straight games of at least 21 points. So I like his upside here at 7.1K a lot. Miles Turner, flow chart type play. The Pelicans are one of the worst teams DVP-wise versus centers. They're allowing the 4th most fantasy points to opposing centers over the past week or so. If he's healthy, maybe we get 34, 35 minutes out of him. He's shown really big upside, especially if the three-pointer is falling for him. So I don't mind Miles Turner. And then I like to spot a good bit for Benedict Mathurin. Been just very solid since Aaron Nesmith went down, averaging 35.1 DK points per game. And Pelicans allowing the 3rd most points in transition, 2nd most points at the rim. So he should be able to get a bunch of easy looks tonight and probably going to get somewhere in the mid-30s from him from a minutes perspective. And I mentioned Moses Brown if Miles Turner would have missed, but I'm not really looking to get to anybody below Mathurin elsewise.
Yeah, excellent breakdown on that game. I agree with everything you said. Ben Shepherd's going to miss. Not that matters much for the Pacers, but yeah. Moving on to the next game, it's interesting. You just said it. Chat was saying it as well. Kyrie was present at shoot-around. What does that mean? Was he just there watching his teammates? Was he actively participating? We don't know. More will come out. It is, 3:30 Central, 4:30 Eastern. So we have a few hours, but we know Luka's out. We know Kyrie is we'll call him questionable. We know Quentin Grimes got downgraded to doubtful. I think Klay Thompson is questionable. Hawks getting fully healthy over there, Rio. Talk to me this game. Let's talk about it as if Kyrie is in. Then we can say Quentin Grimes is out. Kyrie in at the Hawks. It's currently a 4.5-point spread. I know we're showing 2.5, but Mavericks at Atlanta.
Yeah, that was the first thing I wrote when I was doing my notes for this game was I was just pretty surprised with the spread being what it was because I just don't think that Atlanta should be favored against Dallas had Kyrie and Quentin Grimes been ruled in, but now it makes a ton of sense. And the spread is starting to move a little bit more in Atlanta's favor as those guys are getting downgraded, questionable throughout the day. But yeah, we'll just move forward as if Kyrie were to miss and then I'll discuss like the if-then stuff if Kyrie does get ruled out. But this is a pretty good spot for the Dallas side from a fantasy points perspective. Atlanta still looks like one of the best teams to attack. Bottom 9 defensive rating, 2nd in pace, allowing the most 3-pointers per game, the most catch-and-shoot points per game. So it's a very clear mismatch there. And the Mavericks do have some good guys, some guys that match up very well. Mavericks defense has held up very well this season. Not really a ton of holes to pick in their game, but the game environment could definitely get me onto some of these Atlanta pieces. I'll start with the Dallas side because I do think that Kyrie Irving would be in a good spot if he were to play with no Luka out. I'm going to see, big usage rate. Usage rate increase, averaging just under 7 minutes of touch time per game. With Luka out this season, pretty good assist numbers as well. Matchup versus Dyson Daniels is very difficult, but the Atlanta Hawks are dead last in pick and roll defense this season. So that would be the area you'd want to attack. But yeah, I don't know. It's a little scary now coming off of a questionable tag. If he were to play, like how healthy is he? He's 9.7K, so he's not cheap by any means. I wouldn't really know what to do unless I would need to see some more like clarity on the injury stuff for Kyrie if I wanted to go there. But I do love the spot for PJ Washington. He's looked really good over the last couple of games, had 43 and 45.25 DK points over his last 2 games without Luka. Playing a ton of minutes, gets a spot versus the worst 3-point defense in the league. The team that is allowing the 6th most fantasy points per game to power forwards this season. He sees a huge usage rate increase, 4.7+% usage rate increase with Luka off the court, averaging 1.3 fantasy points per minute. I think this is a really good price tag for PJ. I think he's got a ton of upside here. Klay Thompson is also questionable with I think it's plantar fasciitis. I'll double check that really quick. So he's got a left foot injury. I don't know. He's an older guy, so maybe they want to hold him out, but this would be a very good spot for him at 5.6K versus a team that's just bleeding 3-pointers. So I would have some interest in him if he does get ruled in. And then Lively and Gafford, I think, are both in pretty good spots. I do think that this could be a better spot for Gafford tonight, just because Lively's played 31 minutes last night. This is a back-to-back. The matchup was a little bit tougher against Miami. This is definitely much easier against Clint Capella. I would just side for the ownership discount. I guess there's not really much of an ownership discount. Both these guys are projecting pretty low, and they're equally priced. I would just be a max 1. I do think one of these guys has a pretty decent night, though. And then Najee Marshall with Quentin Grimes out, going to look a lot better at 4.9K. He's been shooting the ball a ton lately. He's had 31 shot attempts over his last 2 games. And then if Klay were to miss, he's probably going to be the third option, second option on offense. So he looks pretty good at 4.9K. And then if Kyrie misses, I think you're going to Jaden Hardy and Spencer Dinwiddie. I think both of them are very fine plays, going to have a ton of usage, ton of ball handling going their way. Fine matchup against Trae Young and Dyson Daniels. I was talking to Wardo a little bit before we went live. He was saying that he wanted to fade Dinwiddie, which I definitely understand because he's terrible. But we're essentially paying 7K for a guard if you add their salaries together. And they're probably going to project for 50 plus to 60 points, depending on who's in and who's out. Because if Kyrie and Klay Thompson were to miss this one, I just don't see how you don't get to both of Hardy and Dinwiddie tonight. I think they're just going to be very, very strong value plays and much needed values because we're going to look to get to Jokic tonight for sure. And then on the Atlanta side, it's really just Trae Young and Jalen Johnson for me. Trae Young looks off right now. He had the Achilles injury. It's kind of been bothering him, but Quinn Snyder said that it's not just the Achilles injury that's bothering him. So there might be some other injuries that are lingering for him. The game log looks pretty good because he put up 55 against Chicago on a night that we were on him. But that was an NBA Cup game. He had a insanely high output in the fourth quarter in the last 4 minutes, put up 4 assists and 6 points, got the double-double bonus, had a couple steals mixed in there. So it's a little bit of a misleading game log for him. I'm probably not going to be getting too much Trae Young tonight, even though the matchup is pretty solid, especially now with no Quentin Grimes. And he's very cheap. I think I would just rather get to Jalen Johnson. I like the upside. It's pretty much the same. They've shown very similar upsides at this point of the season. Jalen Johnson has an elite role right now, just right behind Trae in pretty much every category you would want for a ball handler, right behind Jokic in terms of touches per game. So they're running the offense through both these guys. I think Jalen Johnson is the much better play at 8.3K. Matchup is very tough. The Mavericks are allowing the 3rd least transition points per game this season, but the role is just so elite that I'm going to kind of be overlooking that. So I like Jalen Johnson a good bit here. And then I guess Clint Capella he's been playing pretty well. He's hit double-doubles in 4 of his last 5 games, put up 42.75 against Chicago. Matchup is definitely difficult versus the Mavs front court, but he looks like he has a pretty safe floor. So I don't mind Clint Capella. but Jalen Johnson definitely my preferred option on Atlanta tonight.
Yeah, excellent breakdown. I remember you were on Clint Capella on Friday night as well. He's been playing better, but man, if Kyrie misses Hebrew, I think Spencer Dinwiddie is a certified lock. Played 28 minutes last night, had 30 DraftKings points at 3-3. Hey, he was 1 of 12 shooting and still had 30 points. I don't know. He's gonna be a tough fade, especially if two of those guys miss. I think he's a great play. And I like your combo pack that Tambo always talks about. You get basically one player for, what's the math on that? 7,000. See, I don't hate that. Good call on that. We are a little bit over halfway through the show. Hey, we're struggling on those likes. We got 230 in here watching. Hey, hit that like, hit that subscribe button. Do us a favor. Let's get to 100, and let's get Rio's favorite play of the day. We get to 100, we'll give out Rio's favorite play of the day. Next game up, we have the James Harden-led Clippers headed into Beantown to take on the Celtics. A bunch of injuries, bunch of people missing for the Celtics. It's none of the big boys, though. It's some of those lower guys. Porzingis, I think, is making his debut tonight, if I'm not mistaken. Hebrewcheetah, I think Horford would be the one that is questionable, likely to miss. But talk to me a little bit about this game. Clippers coming off that win last night, taking on the Boston Celtics.
Yeah, pretty gross game environment as a whole. Both these teams playing very good defense this season, and then you add in Tingus Pingus back to the mix for the Celtics, which is, I mean, he's a very high usage guy. He's definitely not going to be playing normal minutes. It'll be something like 18 to 20 minutes, I would imagine. Probably, 5-minute stints in each quarter, something like that. But yeah, I mean, his return definitely takes a little bit of upside off of these Celtics pieces. It doesn't really matter too much with a guy like Horford or a guy like Cornet. They're typically very low usage guys. So yeah, I'm kind of off on the Celtics right now. I think if there was one guy you're going to keep in the pool, it's probably going to be Jason Tatum, just because he does a little bit of everything. Doesn't really need to score to hit value. 10.2K is a fine price tag for him. A little bit of a tougher matchup going up against Derrick Jones Jr. and Chris Dunn, the guys like that. So tough spot for Tatum, but yeah, I mean, he's probably the only one I'm going to be considering tonight on Boston. On the Celtics side, it's really just James Harden and Zubac for me. I think James Harden is a fine play. Tough matchup against the guards, Derek White and Drew Holiday, but the Celtics do allow the 5th most pick and roll points per game this season. Harden really not doing a ton of pick and roll stuff this season from a scoring perspective, but he still has one of the best roles in the league. 7.5 minutes of touch time, 28.5% usage rate, just under 40% assist percentage. And with Norm Powell out, seeing a slight increase in usage rate as well. So I think that he's a totally fine option, 9.1K. That's a very good price tag for him. Zubac, price is starting to come down as well. He's only 7K, put up no less than 36 DK points in 5 straight game. Definitely a tougher matchup with Porzingis back tonight, but no Horford. Should definitely be a little bit better for the minutes that he staggered away from Kristaps. Celtics rim defense has really not been that great this season, so I still think there's a good amount of upside for Zubac, and we know that they're going to want to play him a ton of minutes, especially in a matchup where they're bringing back a guy like Porzingis. So I think that he's a very solid option in the mid tier, and I think that Chris Dunn, KPJ, Amir Coffey, Derrick Jones Jr. should all probably remain your starting or in your player pool, but you're probably not getting to any of these guys if the Dallas news hits our way. So that's kind of where I'm going with this one. Really just the guys up top on the Clipper side and Tatum on the Boston side.
Yeah, real quick, if you don't mind going back to this last game, I think Dinwiddie's a great play. I don't know if you're as high on him as me, but Sean said if he gets any kind of ownership, he's an easy fade. But for me at 3-3, I really like him. What's your take on Dinwiddie? Should Kyrie? I mean, is it you're playing him, or is it if it gets to 20%, you're fading him? What's your thoughts on that?
No, I'm playing him. Like, it's not. I understand. Like, he's awful. I don't like the player, but you gotta. This is a different game we're playing. We're not playing the guys that we like the best. We're playing the guys that are going to perform the best. I mean, he's 3.3K. Like, you're not. I just don't think that you can get away from that when he's going to be starting and probably playing 30 minutes tonight. So yeah, I definitely have to kindly disagree with our guy Sean. I don't see how you get away from Dinwiddie.
And that's what I was thinking too. I mean, if Kyrie and Clay and Grimes all play, then I think he's an easy fade. I don't think he'll be as highly owned, but at 3,300, I mean, it allows you to jam in Nicole and players like that. But yeah, I mean, Sean's the man, obviously, and it's just a something I just wanted to clarify for everybody else out there. So anyway, moving on to the next game. We got 2 games left that we're going to talk about on this DraftKings main slate. If you want any other information on FanDuel, make sure you're hitting us up in the Discord. And if you aren't a member, make sure you head over to SHIPIT Nation. Join us today. We have the Trailblazers minus some big men tonight. I know one guy you're going to be talking about. They don't have Klingon. They don't have DeAndre Ayton. Let you talk about the other big man that I know you like, taking on the Grizzlies, who, hey, the Grizzlies, my grit and grind boys, are getting back healthy. Ja's back, D-Bane, Jaren Jackson Jr. Talk to me a little bit about this. I'm assuming Ja's going to be on some sort of a pitch count, heavy favorites, 121-point total for the Grizzlies, but Trailblazers at the Grizzlies, Grizzlies minus 10.5.
Yeah, very, very big news that the Grizzlies getting healthier. I think that they are kind of a dark horse in the West right now. They have a ton of depth and a lot of complementing pieces with each other, and then adding a guy like Ja back into the mix. I think this team could make a run in the West this season. But yeah, he's surely going to be on some sort of pitch count for sure. It sucked because he was starting to get healthy, starting to play, 33, 34 minutes a night, and then he's having a big game against the Lakers and twist up his ankle, so he missed a handful of games, but should be on his way to getting healthy again. But we're probably going to be seeing what we saw earlier in the season, which was like 25 to 28 minutes on a nightly basis, and it's just very hard to pick that in DFS. So I think that the Memphis side is kind of an easy X out for me. I think you can probably make a case for Desmond Bane still, even though he hurt us on Saturday. I think that he's still a fine option, probably going to be the safest in terms of a minute floor ceiling perspective. And it's a good matchup for guards against the Blazers, kind of a spot we've been looking to attack all season long. So I don't mind Desmond Bane a little bit, but otherwise I'm not really looking to get to these secondary Memphis guys because they're going to probably be running out 10 to 12 guys tonight, just like the Warriors do. But the Blazers side is very interesting with Ayton and Klingon out. Robert Williams right now is the best value on the slate, and I just don't think that you're really sneaking that by anybody. He's just a complete fantasy point per minute stud. Going to probably play mid-20s to upper 20s minutes tonight as he got the night off on Saturday, had a couple days off. So yeah, I think that he's a totally fine option. Matchup is not great, not terrible, but yeah, he's just a point per minute stud. So I'm going to be playing a ton of Time Lord tonight. But the interesting side is, I guess, the injury stuff, because Scoot Henderson has missed a couple games with it was some lower leg injury, like a thigh injury, something like that. But now he's listed questionable with a back injury, so another injury designation. Good chance that he misses. And then Jeremy Grant played through the questionable tag, the illness tag last game, but still being listed questionable, which with an illness tag, which is kind of weird and interesting. And then Chris Murray is also questionable. So any of those guys miss, I think we can get some sneaky upside from a couple of these guys in the mid-tier, starting with the 2 up top, which is Shaedon Sharpe and Anthony Simons. Very good stylistic matchup for these guys. The Grizzlies allowing the 4th most catch-and-shoot points per game this season. Huge three-point funnel, allowing over 14 threes per game, which is like 4th or 5th worst in the league this season. Simon's coming off of a very strong game against Houston where he put up 25 points on 4 of 11 shooting from downtown. Shaedon Sharpe scored 24 points in that game, shot 4 of 9 from deep. Both these guys see a very big usage rate increase and fantasy production increase with Ayton and Klingon out, and both of those roles would grow even larger if Scoot or Grant Chris Murray doesn't really do too much, but if Scoot and Grant were to miss, then it's going to be very big roles for those 2 guys offensively. And then Deni Avdija, he looked really good last game in a short time. He's quietly been actually played 33 minutes in that one, so saw more minutes than he normally does, but he's quietly been crushing with Ayton and Klingon out. Sees a huge usage rate increase, 3.8% increase with Ayton and Klingon out of the lineup, and averaging 1.33 fantasy points per minute. And both those numbers would just absolutely skyrocket if Jeremy Grant were to miss. But even if Scoot were to miss, even better situation for Deni Avdija. So I have a ton of interest in him tonight. I like these Blazers pieces, should be low owned. Also, if Scoot and Grant were to miss, then Delano Banton would be in play. A little bit tougher because he's going to be sharing the court with Shaedon Sharpe and Anthony Simons, but he's generally been a very high usage guy and a high point per minute producer, so I wouldn't mind him at all. And then Chris Murray sneakily would give a little bit more minutes to Duab Reith, who would play behind Robert Williams. They would run a little bit more small ball if Chris Murray were to be in. Maybe Jabari Walker sneaks in there, but if Murray were to be out, then Duop is a guy we could look to at 3K.
Yeah, Power had mentioned him in the chat. I was going to ask you about our boy Duop, who we played some last year. Time Lord, why doesn't he play into the 30s? Is it just his knees and whatnot, or I mean, he never gets above 25 minutes? Is it just due to health concerns?
Yeah, I don't know if somebody can clarify this. I feel like he might have some sort of like asthma or something like that. I could be wrong about that, but he's never really been a guy that sees 30 plus minutes, even going back to his days when he was starting for Boston. Also, he's kind of hot in the trade market right now, so I don't think that you want to even risk injuring him, because I think that there's a couple teams that are looking at him. But yeah, I mean, they're just so thin right now. They kind of have to play him mid-20s minutes, and he's just, I've already said what I had to say about him, but he's a really good value play. I do think that Duop is a sneaky option, but they could go small ball. They've done that in the past. He hasn't really been – it hasn't been like a one-for-one situation with Klingon and Aiden out that Duop is getting those minutes. I mean, you look at the game log, hasn't played more than 12 minutes in a game this season.
Yeah, excellent breakdown there. We got one game left, Nation, to break down tonight. We got about 300 in here watching. Hey, I'm a little disappointed, only about 70 likes so far. Let's get 30 likes. Let's get those like buttons up. Hey, we want to get Rio's top play of the day. So, hey, let's get to 100. We'll give it out to everybody out there, and then you come on over to the Nation to get the rest of his score, my core, and our guy BJ's score in the private Discord. Last game on the slate should be pretty good. We have Kat and Jalen headed into the Mile High City to take on the Joker and this Nuggets team. I saw someone in the chat earlier put Westbrook is back. I didn't know he missed, or I didn't know if they were talking about another Westbrook. But in any event, no Aaron Gordon still for the Nuggets. Cat is questionable. We're going to pretend like he's playing. Talk to me about this game. Knicks at the Nuggets. Nuggets -4, 232 point total.
Yeah, I think they just mean like vintage Westbrook is back, because he's been crushing lately. Been huge spark plug off the bench for Denver this season, which I love to see. Big fan of Russell Westbrook. But yeah, I guess the main thing in this game, I mean, this should be like one of the best games from a viewing standpoint tonight. I think, two contending teams in the East and the West facing off, with the Knicks heading into Denver after getting absolutely embarrassed by my Utah Jazz on Saturday. But yeah, this should be a game that the Knicks get up for, going up against Nikola Jokic, Jamal Murray, star-studded team like this. Defensively, Knicks have been pretty up and down this season. They're bottom 10 defensive rating right now, allowing a ton of three-pointers per game this season, fourth worst, 14.7 three-pointers per game. Nuggets defense has been pretty fine, but they are allowing some transition scoring, not really the Knicks' main point of emphasis on offense, but they do have a slight advantage there. The main talking point would be if Cat were to miss. I think he's playing. It's just a calf contusion, if I'm not mistaken. He did miss a game with a knee contusion, but was kind of he played through the knee contusion, then missed the next game. Could have just been caution, or it might have been a matchup thing. They just didn't really need him that game. But this would be a spot I definitely expect him to play. Expect him to get up for this one. Jokic's actually done a very good job defending centers this season, but Cat is a totally different player. He's had a huge role for the Knicks this season, second on the team in usage, just behind Brunson. This is slightly above average matchup DVP-wise for opposing centers, and Cat is averaging just under 51 DK points per game this season. So I think that he's totally fine, and he's playing like a 10K plus player right now, 9.3K. Shouldn't get too much ownership. Definitely like him. These secondary guys, though, I find it really tough to get to. Jalen Brunson has been very up and down this season. 8.8K price tag. I don't think that he's really earned that personally. Has only gone 5X that salary 6 times this season in 16 games, and not very good. I think he's only 6X that salary once or twice. The average matchup versus Christian Braun, slightly average at best. I would say maybe even below average. So not really looking to get to too much Brunson. I think Josh Hart is a fine play. He's been very solid this season. 42 plus DK points in 6 of his last 8 games. OG is a little bit too expensive at 6.8K for me. I think Bridges is fine, but he's kind of losing some minutes to campaign, as he's not really brought it defensively, and his offense has obviously been kind of down this season. So I think Bridges is kind of easy to get away from, but you're not really looking to leverage him by playing campaign or anything like that, with Payne being 4.1K. Also, Deuce McBride might be back tonight, so that could add some more minutes to the backcourt for the Knicks. So it's really just cat or bust for me on the Knicks side. On the Denver side, you can make a case that it's just Jokic or bust, but I do have a slight lean for somebody else I'll get to in a second. But yeah, I mean, Jokic should just torch cat this game tonight. The pricing actually took a slight decrease at 12K. I think he was 12.2K the other night, and he's just been on a tear this season. I mean, he's got to be the front runner for MVP by a pretty wide margin right now, averaging 30.3 points per game, 13.9 rebounds per game, 11.3 assists per game, just under 72 DK points per game. So, yeah, if anything, he's slightly underpriced in my eyes, and I just think that this is a great spot for him. Versus a Knicks team that struggles to defend the interior, struggles to defend three-pointers, don't really think that you need to make a case to play Jokic. He's easily the best play on the slate. And then I think that it's a slightly sneaky spot for Michael Porter Jr. Very tough to get to him at 7.6K, but I'm probably going to be increasing his projection a little bit because I do like the matchup with the Knicks struggling against three-point shooters. He's had a double-double in 2 of his last 3 games, put up 40-some-odd fantasy points in those ones. And, yeah, the matchup should be pretty solid for him. I think this is definitely a 150 only play. I'm not even sure if I'm going to play 150 lineups tonight, but he would be a guy I would be considering. I think Westbrook is a little bit too expensive with all the value at the guard position tonight. And, yeah, I'm not looking to get to anybody else. So it's really just Jokic and Cat for me in this one with a little bit of interest in Michael Porter Jr.
Who do you got between Hart versus D Bain? My guy, Mr. Don wants to know Hart or D Bain on DK.
I think I'd probably lean with Hart just because I like the game environment here a little bit better. And he does a little bit more. Like he's a guy that can get triple doubles. He's been a lot more consistent and probably shown equally high upside. So yeah, I definitely prefer Josh Hart there.
Yeah, excellent breakdown there. We got 300 watching. We're at 92 likes. I'll give the people about 30 more seconds as I get into the last promo of the day. We broke down all 7 games for you. Hey, if you love what Hebrewcheetah had to say tonight, make sure you head on over to SHIPITNation.com, enter the promo code NBA50. That'll get you 50% off your first month over here at the Nation. And I'm not going to give it away for free. Oh, I got to get on the right screen. Hold on. I'm not going to give it away for free, Hebrew, but I do want to give the people just a quick glimpse at the Nation. I'm not going to go there because I have your slate playing up. And I know we don't want to give that away. And let me get to the right screen. There we go. We're back. All right. So let's see. Let's take a look. We're at 96. We're at 96, Rio. I'll let you be the judge. We're going to give the people your player of the day. Hey, we're going to make them get to 100.
I think they got to get to 100.
They got to get to the 100. All right, they're at 96. It doesn't look like they're going to get it. We certainly appreciate, well, there's 299. Certainly appreciate you tuning in today. We'll be back all week long, every day but Thanksgiving. Hey, make sure you enjoy your week. Hebrew, you enjoy your Thanksgiving as well. We'll see you back. I'll be back with you next Monday. I know you're here tomorrow with BJ. But for my guy, Hebrewcheetah, I'm Ham. Let's ship it.